Welcome to episode 2 of Ready, Set, Multiplex. My name is Louis, aka Louis the Frenchie Monette. On tonight's episode, we have two people on the show. First off is my co host, the man I'm slowly sucking his soul day by day. It's Dave. And we have a special guest. We have a special guest on here today. Is Andrew, the dive bar. All right, so Andrew, first off, how are you today?
You're getting me at a new angle, because, of reasons, but otherwise I'm doing pretty well.
All right. And how's your soul, Dave?
Why we always gotta just talk about sucking my soul and stuff, man? Why are we bringing this on camera? Why are we bringing this? Why is this not a behind the scenes thing? What we do in our spare time is our business, Lou.
Sucking souls? That sounds
Yeah.
wrong.
What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, I ask myself that every day. All right, so we're ready. Before we go into the shows and your journey on Multiplex, Andrew, you said something interesting that you wanted to get redeemed for your free for all. Talk to me about your free for all performance and why do you want to be redeemed?
So let's start with Miracle Max.
All right.
I love The Princess Bride. It's actually one of my favorite movies of all time. And the fact that I got that question wrong really upset me. I think it's because the category was family films, and while yes, it is a family film, it's it's a movie that has so many different things and elements going on in it that in my head I wasn't clicking with family film when it came to Miracle Max. I was thinking like family films. I was like, there's the Goonies and E.T. and things like that. And
It's a fantasy film, right?
it's
Personally.
a fantasy film, but it's also a comedy. And
It's a perfect film, is what it is.
very close to it. And then there was the boating accident. I love The Truman Show. I hadn't seen it in a while though, and I knew that Truman's dad was in an accident of some kind, so I wrote car. And I feel like if I had a little bit more time, it would have clicked with me that it was a boat. And it was two questions that I knew the answers to, but for some reason, whether it was one of the reasons I said or another reason, they didn't come to me in the fast enough time.
And you see, like when that question like came up, I've seen that movie so many times. That scene is engraved into my head. Like it's such an emotional. And one of my first performances, I actually liked Jim Carrey. I was younger too, and I seen his comedies, but that was a more of an emotional scene, and that just stuck. So when that question popped up, I was like, everyone's gonna get it. And when you roll car, I'm like, what? No.
And here's the other thing that I realized when I rewatched it. If I had gotten that right, I would have still been eliminated, but I would have taken out both Caleb Coho and Jeremy Adams.
Yeah, okay. So you would have done more damage.
Yeah, I would have done more damage had I gotten that right.
All right, but you know what? Let's go to now your journey to Multiplex. Talk to me about from the beginning to now, like free for all your two matches. What is that journey, sir?
So I joined Multiplex, I want to say back in like April or May or something like that. And I had auditioned for the 32 single tournament, the 32 seeded single tournament. And I just happened to be in a group that had a lot of great people. Ethan Beller was in that group. Corey Quinto was in that group, and he's a tough person to play against sometimes. And I just happened to not do as well as I would have wanted to. I still beat Caleb Coho.
That's always fun.
Anytime we've ever played, he always beats me. So I missed out on the tournament because of that.
Okay.
Then, because I actually became really good friends with the guys at Multiplex, I was able to get into the singles after the tournament. And I got to play Tony Heald.
Okay.
Tony Field's a cool guy. I love playing against him. He's a lot of fun. We both have this energy that just bounces back and forth off of each other. And if I'm not mistaken, I beat him by TKO.
Okay.
Then we moved on to the teams where Ethan Beller and I, as Cult Classics, played the Goodfellas, which I don't know if they're still a team anymore. And then after that, we played Necronomicon, which is Jay Burns and Mark Aiden Kamayer. Both of those we won by TKO.
Okay.
Then we played Second Reel, and it was a bad week for us because we didn't really have that much time to study. Ethan had things going on for him. I'm an actor. I was working on a show that was opening that week, so we didn't have time to study. They gave us, eventually got our opponent's strength, and it hurt us because of the time that we could have had to study. Then came the free-for-all. And I think we all know how I did that. So.
Well, your purpose was to redeem yourself, and I say you did, but we'll talk about that a bit later for the matches. Before we go specifically into the matches, Dave, I think you want to know a bit about a certain aspect that really, is worth mentioning.
Yeah, so you have, obviously, as part of your teams in Cult Classics, Jay Burns as your manager, and he may not be your manager anymore in singles after his performance in the Manager Bowl, but what does having a manager for you mean in a team play, especially when they're not in the room with you? What does Jay provide for you?
Jay provides support. I've been friends with Jay since back in March of last year. And he helps me study outside of everything. Like, we'll get on a call and it'll be just me and him if it's something like taglines or something like that. And I'm kind of hard on myself as a player sometimes. And Jay is pretty quick at picking up when I'm doing that to myself and getting in my own head. And he's there to help kind of snap me out of that. We also like brainstorm things, and when he's on a call with me, backing me up as manager, I have a lot more confidence in myself than if I didn't have anyone with me.
So it's as much moral support and moral management than just also studying. He really balances the yin to the yang.
Absolutely. He helps me. He helps Ethan and I study. He helps us prep. He helps us strategize. But he also keeps our heads focused.
Okay. And another thing that I find really interesting is you guys seem so complete opposites, because I want to talk about him a bit later. I'm not sure if I like him or not. He's such a polarizing character. He made me feel like the first time I saw Finstock, I wasn't sure what the hell I'm looking at. And then when I saw he was, if I can be completely honest, you're probably an awesome guy, and I can't wait to see him again. But I can't figure that guy out. And when I understood he was your manager, I was like, wait, what? They don't fit. Mm-hmm. So, like, how did that dynamic come about?
So, one of the first games I ever played in the fan leagues in general, he was there. There's this other league called Full Metal Trivia, and they do like a weekly thing. And he was on the first call I was ever on. And we somehow, even though we are very opposite, we clicked.
Okay.
It's an opposites attract kind of thing, where we've helped each other with a lot of things over the year.
All right, and you need. We're back. Round 3. Let's hope this works. All right.
I hope this works.
All right. So if the internet gods permit us again, we were talking about your first match. And I wanted to know do you find you redeemed yourself? Did you do what you set yourself to do?
Against Damien?
Yeah.
Absolutely. If first of all, Damien is a very good player. I just had a better game than him that day. If you look back at that match, I missed 2 questions total.
True.
And I was able to pick up the steals that he dropped. Which is something I worked hard on Kevin Smith because I knew that was probably going to be what he chose if he got Spinner's choice. So I knew that the movies that I really needed to watch or at least study were Red State, Jersey Girl, and Cop Out. Because those are the ones outside of the View Askew universe, which has been a category multiple times. So I've had to study and write questions about the View Askew universe a lot. So those were the 3 movies I knew I needed to focus on. Oh, and the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. So yeah, I'm very happy with that because the studying paid off. I was able to pick up, I think it was 3 points total. All
right. All right, we're back.
Okay.
So with round one is impossible to study for.
Yeah.
And it's the best round one I've ever had. I usually average 4 to 5 points.
Okay.
And I got 6 this time. So yeah. With my match against Damien, I was very happy. And I redeemed, I would probably say yes. However, I still think that I could do better.
That's a good philosophy. And talking about doing better, I think me and Dave wanted to talk about, but you go ahead about the whole detective and cop thing. Go ahead and talk about that a bit.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is the match against Join It Up.
No,
Yeah, you're ahead of yourself, Lou.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm reading the notes and I'm stupid. We all know that. It was a Ladybird question, the whole Rhode Island and Cali. She wanted to go Rhode Island, but she was living in Cali.
That's
what
right.
was going through your mind?
Honestly, there are some instances where I just have to trust my gut. The first thing that I think of is usually the right answer. Not always, but usually. Especially when it's a movie that I've seen before. And I've seen Lady Bird before. I really like that movie. And I think my brain had a moment of Rhode Island because they literally say the words Rhode Island in that.
Yeah.
So you don't hear them talk about California that much. So because of that, I think my brain went, they live in Rhode Island and she's going to school in California because I knew it was the opposite side of the country. It's just a simple slip up.
All right. And also there's one thing I was really impressed when you had the movie release day question for The Color Money. You know, your Walker had to think about it the second the question was over. You're like, but then when you gave in your answer, you didn't seem sure. So was it just your gut instinct or were you double guessing yourself at the end?
I was double guessing myself at the end. Because with movie release dates, I can usually get within 2 years, usually.
Okay.
If I don't start overthinking it, at least. It's a category that I'm decent in.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of people aren't. So that just happened to be one of those movies where once again my gut instinct hit me immediately, and I just wrote the first thing. I have learned to, this is something that Jay has helped me with actually. Cool. I have learned to stop doubting my gut and just write the first thing that comes to mind. Then afterwards, if I want to, I can look it over and decide if that's right or wrong.
All right.
And it's a good philosophy to have.
It really is, and that, like you said, that's where Jay comes in, right? That's where he makes the whole difference. And you hear that often in the movie trivia type sport is most people who don't go with their gut instinct or double second guess themselves, they don't go far because, you know, usually their gut instinct is right. That being said, there's something else I really found interesting is when you got How 9000, he just wrote How. And you said I was so close to doing that mistake. Is that you again trusting your gut instinct and just,
That was actually the opposite instinct.
Oh, okay.
At first I had just written How. And then I looked at, if I'm not mistaken, I either looked at it or I thought about it.
Okay.
And then if you look back at the video, you can see me like write it, pause, and then write small underneath Hal 9000. Because if you look at that whiteboard, Hal's in big letters, taking up most of it, and then 9000 is kind of just at the bottom.
All right. And yeah, that was a good guess, and that gave you they gave you a little heads up because at the end of the round you're at 6-3, and you said it was your best round. Walker was he was struggling, but I didn't see the match personally, but if you go with what he said before, he doesn't need to have a good round one to win the match. So were you still worried?
I was a little more confident because I find that if you're up by at least 4, it's hard to come back from that kind of deficit out of the first round.
Okay.
2 and 3 is a little bit more easy to manage. If you're just down by 1 or if you're tied, it's anyone's game.
Okay.
So I think it was up by 3 or something like that. And I was a little more confident going into the second round. It really depended on what that wheel landed on. Luckily, most of that wheel works in my favor category-wise, so which is why I decided to go first.
Okay. And Dave, go ahead.
Was there anything? Obviously, you're talking about the wheel now, and you'll eventually spin and get 90s. Was there anything else in particular on the wheel you were really hoping for, or was 90s the slice?
I was really hoping for 70s taglines, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yes. That is an area that I picked that as a strength. And I studied that intensely.
Okay.
Jay and some of my other study buddies, like just before the match, was drilling me on those. And I would say that I got maybe 90% of them right.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I was really hoping to get that. But once again, that wheel was kinder to me than other wheels have been in the past, like with the selection of categories.
Yeah.
So if I didn't get it, I was okay with getting 90s.
All right. And Dave, why don't you take over round 2 questions?
So in the 90s, you had there were a lot of music questions in the 90s category, going from the question about what instrument does the guy play, that being drums. Is studying the musical movies, and not necessarily musicals, but just music movies, is that something that you really look for, or is that a passion of yours?
Sort of. I am a very musical person. I actually love musicals. And I do love movies about music. Music is very important to me. I'm one of those guys who does deep dives for indie country and alt rock and things like that. So music movies are very important to me.
Okay.
However, I still have not seen That Thing You Do, even though I've seen trailers and clips, and I've heard so much about it. And then Mr. Holland's Opus, that question, I was like, this is too easy.
I would start overthinking it. Yeah.
But yeah, music movies tends to be something that I do better in.
Okay. And then the shorty question with Danny DeVito, that was obviously the only answer. It's the short guy in the 90s, and if it's not Tom Cruise, it's Danny DeVito, right?
Yeah. That was a movie that for some reason a few months ago I had studied on a whim. I think I was just studying up on my 90s comedies, and that's one that I kind of browsed IMDb's synopsis on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of got lucky having looked that one up.
Yeah. And obviously, you had talked about Walker. His strength was going to be Kevin Smith. What are you feeling when you see that he's getting that strength in round 2?
So I'm still feeling pretty good. I had a good enough score where if he did well in it, I knew that we would still get into round 3 at least. And having studied it like just before the match, I felt good in a few select movies. I felt good in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I felt good in Red State.
That was a great poll on the John Goodman question. I was like, I think it's the FBI, but you just right away.
Yeah. No, because I remember it was the one movie that I studied the most. It was the one movie that I like read the synopsis. I watched the trailer. I had people ask me about things about that movie. So it just happened to be the 2 movies that I got steals on were the 2 that I had just studied and I was the most confident on.
So at the end of that round, you're looking at a 16-9 going to the 3rd round. Do you get that feeling that it's going to be a TKO right now? Have you already seen it?
I didn't get the feeling that it was going to be a TKO, but I felt in that moment that the odds were more in my favor. Because Damian can be a surprise sometimes. So I felt good about winning overall, the idea of that, but I wasn't necessarily looking forward at a TKO.
But then you get it anyway. And how does that feel to get another TKO under your belt? And moving on to the triple threat match. And if you can just talk about how you're going to be preparing for that as well as we get ready to wrap this up.
So, honestly, I don't look at how I get the victories. I just look at the fact that I got the victory.
Okay, that's good.
A win's a win.
Yeah, exactly. A win's a win for me. TKOs and KOs, they don't matter to me because I start to get too in my head about the next match and how I'm going to compare myself to how I did when I got a TKO or a KO. So I kind of just like look past that and just look at the fact that I got a win. As for the triple threat match, it's going to be interesting because Cameron and I are very similar in some areas.
Okay.
But then there are some areas that I know that he's good in, and some of the strengths he's used in the past, and have been working on those. Whereas Adam's a little bit more of a question mark. So it's kind of hard to study for him, except for one category, which I know, and one strength that he has that I know he might use. And I'm going to look more into studying that, but I'm going to wait to see what the strengths actually are.
All right. Well, here's to wishing you the best for that match. Like I say, it's a question mark, but does not mean you're not able to smash it. So,
Right.
All right. So let's go through your team's match. All right. So this is a different scenario here. Before we start, though, me and Dave were talking. What the hell is Thin Man movies?
What's the? Please educate us.
Okay. So the first Thin Man movie came out in 1934.
Okay.
It is
All right.
a comedy mystery series starring William Powell and Myrna Loy, who have their on-screen chemistry is some of the best on-screen chemistry in movie history.
Okay.
It's the first couple movies. The first 2 movies are fantastic. Then there's not a bad movie in the bunch, but there are definitely ones that are weaker. I would recommend watching the first 2 movies, The Thin Man and After the Thin Man. And I love comedies from the 30s and 40s because they had the Hays Code, which means that they had to be smarter about the comedy that they were doing. They couldn't just rely on some things that we can rely on now. So because because they had those boundaries that they had to pass, it's harder. You have to be smarter about the comedy you're making, which I think that this series does really well.
And now we know, Dave.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research. I was saying there's a reason I only play in Geek because I was like, I've never heard of those movies before, but you're just knocking them out.
Yeah, and there's a reason I only comment, apparently. All right. All right, so going to the thing I was talking about before my brain aneurysm, I got confused. The whole Serpico question, detective, but it is undercover cop. And there was a point to be made that you can challenge that, and then it's going to take too long. If I were you, I was like, take the time it takes. I want my point. What was going through your head?
What was going through my head was, there is a line in the movie where he's talking about how he wants to become a detective.
Okay.
And working his way. And he does get offered it towards the end. But because of everything he went through, he declines it. So that's where the question mark came in. I couldn't remember if he accepted it or if he declined it. Because he's a regular cop at one point. Then he's an undercover cop. And then he is like looking for that promotion to detective. So he has multiple jobs technically in the movie as regular beat cop, undercover cop. And
all of those were accepted with the exception of detective, obviously. Did you ever think about challenging just cop to try and take some points away or get the question thrown out?
No, because I think the only person who said just cop was Ethan. So it would have been taking points away from us.
You know what? That's right. That's what my notes actually say. You're right. That would have been a dumb move. That would have been a very dumb move.
Plus, when it comes to challenges, unless it's something that I can automatically be like, no, it's this. Here's your proof. This is what you look up. Blah, 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 blah. I tend to try to save those for the second round or the third round. Because if we get it wrong, we've lost any chance of challenging for a higher amount of points.
If we go now to the end of round one, it's 14-7. You're doubling the points.
Yeah.
They're doubling the points over you. Do you think it's over? It's done, or do you still have a fighting chance in your brain?
Much respect to Dominic and Dustin because they're really good players. They don't study.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I've heard from other people, at least. So I can't speak for them. And my thought process was, it's not impossible because if they land on something that they're not good at and we land on something that we are good at, that swing can be real easy. Unfortunately for us, they landed on their strength.
Yeah. But again, so go ahead, Dave.
I was just say, how did you do? Would you have gotten any of the steals if they had missed them?
Aside from the one opportunity that we did have, I would have gotten 3 out of the 4 of those questions.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. And now we'll wrap the second round up. It's 21 for Light It Up. You guys 17. You put up a good fight. You went up there. Round 3, in my mind, like, okay, they're not going to make it. But then you actually hit your 1, 2, and the 4-pointer. You go on the lead. You guys are maybe going to win this. Again, were you being pessimistic? What was going through your mind?
What was going through my mind was, after we got into the lead, I thought we had a chance. But one of my things is always hope for the best, but never expect anything.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to disappoint yourself if things don't go the way that you expect. So I knew that they had to get 3 points to tie us. And their 1 and 2 point questions are generally very easy if you know your movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, they're definitely going to tie us. And then the 3 and the 4 point questions are going to be what actually decide the match. And then they got that 3 point question. And I knew it immediately. And I'm going to say this, even though I think people might try to use this against me. I hate character name questions. I
could not agree more.
Yeah, I hate them. I'm almost never good at them. But the minute I heard the question, I was like, it's Jerry. It's Jerry Lundegaard. And now I don't know if I thought that because I was like, people know this character, or because Fargo is my favorite movie ever made.
Full disclosure, never seen Fargo.
Oh, you're missing out, Lou.
You're missing out, dude.
I know.
It's the Coen Brothers' best film, in my opinion.
I only seen one Coen's brother movie. That's it.
See, that's why Ethan and I picked it. That was the category that Ethan and I picked to be put into round 3. We picked Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
And so I hear the question, what is the first name of William H. Macy's character in Fargo? And you can see me just deflate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they put up a great game. I'm not going to take anything from Dustin and Dom. They put up a great game. It may be their best performance as a team I've ever seen, honestly. Because they communicated, they waited, they thought it out, they let the time tick down instead of just jumping on something. Which is, I think, the biggest problem that a lot of teams have. Is they go, oh, it's this, da-da-da-da, final answer. And it bites a lot of people in the butt sometimes. This is the best that Dustin and Dom have played as a team.
Yeah, and I don't know them from past, but they look like they were veterans. You know, they really had an interesting chemistry. They knew their stuff, and they won over 3 points. It's not like they decimated you guys. So, would you like to see a rematch?
Oh, absolutely, because I think that it's a match that would still we would still get into the points that we got.
Okay.
Would it be different, the outcome? Maybe. But I still think it would be a good match. I want to play people that pose a challenge to me.
Okay.
Because it drives me more.
There you go.
And that's what both Dom and Dustin do as players. They drive me more.
All right. And that pretty much wraps up the teams match. You got a show on. Tell me about that show.
Oh, so Dance Off. You're already on the next season now, both of you guys. So this is run by Brooklyn Vale and myself. It is a debate show that is centered around music. Brooklyn and I are both music heads. We're nerds when it comes to music. And we're opening up the season actually with the championship match. It's transferring over from another channel onto Multiplex. Okay. And the championship is going to be current belt holder Cody Newberry versus Caleb Coho. Am I a little bitter because Caleb beat me? Yes. But it's a music debate show run by Brooklyn and myself, and we're looking for new people. We're looking for new people for the new season. Contact myself or Brooklyn about this. But it's a lot of fun. It's a fun atmosphere. We make sure that the questions are fair, even, and like well phrased. So there's no like wiggle room for anything like that. And it's something that we're both very passionate about because once again, we love music, but we also love the art of debate.
That's cool. Like I would probably fit it into your heavy metal show. Else than that, I don't know how well I would do in other categories. It would really depend.
We have Jeff Varyu, who's a metalhead, and he's done very well in the league. And sometimes he's able to get the other things like a pop question or like a hip hop question in there as well, and does very well on those. But when he gets the chance to pick a metal answer. He hits the floor. He hits that pedal so hard.
Well, you know what? In that case, it gives me a bit of courage maybe to try so because I've listened metal almost all my life and starting to open up to other things. So you never know. All right. So Dave, do you have any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
Oh, I just want to ask, what is your goal, Andrew, for this season in Multiplex? Where do you see yourself at the end of this season?
So if I'm being realistic with myself, I don't see myself as champion just yet. But I want to always be in that picture. I always want to be considered as a good player, even if I don't have that belt around me. Yeah. I want to be seen as a threat even if I'm not the biggest threat.
Would you rather have it in as an individual or as part of your
Team.
Oh, yeah.
Team. Honestly, because Ethan is such a good person and he's such a good player that I want him to have a belt as well. And if he had the singles belt over me, I'd be completely fine with that. But I want to make sure that he has a belt as well. And if we do it as a team, I think we have a better chance.
See people out there, that's a true face. That's a true face. Not just thinking about himself, but thinking about his teammates. All right. When I say face, you don't actually have to touch your face.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood the term.
That's how you get pimples. I'm just saying. All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. It took some time, but we got here. We did it. We survived. All right. And Dave, you got some work with this, but
I'm so sorry, Dave.
That's okay. That's okay. Again, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And we'll wrap it up with the dive bar himself. Until next time, we're definitely going to have you back on the show.
I would love to come back on, guys. This has been fun.
All right.
All right.
Ciao.
Take care.
Great interview. Thank you very much again, Andrew, for your time and for your comments. It was really, really a great insight. That being said, on to the next. We are talking about the fandom matches. I want to start with Ascendant versus FU Lucas.
Great name.
Well, little known fact, my second name is Lucas, so this is the FU to you too. All right, so Caleb Coho and Cameron Osman. I don't know much about Cameron. I've seen Caleb a bit. He's a bit of like a smack in the face type of guy. You know, he has a lot of opinions. It's either you love him or hate him, I think, type of guy. You know,
you got that feeling about a lot of people, don't you, Liv?
Maybe I'm projecting. Yeah, you never know. All right, but I personally loved him. He was interesting, but he's definitely a heel. Even though he wants to go face, he's gonna be a tweener in my the in between the face and the heel. You know. Off the bat, a lot of drama, right? The whole story about how Coho kicked Jim Green and Lucas out of the team, not even directly, but with a friend texting them that you're out. You know. That's a lot of drama.
That's not, you know, it hit close to home, honestly. It was hard to watch the rest of the match after that.
You want a hug?
No, yeah, okay, please.
Oh, I'm still not giving your soul back. It's mine. All right. But yeah, it's I don't know if it's just storyline, but it kind of felt not just storyline, it felt personal. It felt like we have something to settle with these guys, and it's not just written down on paper, you know?
Yeah, and that I think is where the best storylines come from. Is there's an element of truth in everything. Not saying that these guys are behind closed doors at each other's throats, but it's that kind of storyline that really gets me excited for what's going on in the league. But again, just a little too close to home with that getting kicked out over text.
Having a bit of PTSD.
Huh.
All right, so slow start round one. It's still slow start at the beginning, but then more we went through it. It was 15-5 for the Ascendant and
12-5.
Oh, sorry, 12-5. Apparently, give me a second. Sorry,
no problem.
Breathing your saliva is not a good option. Apparently,
not a great option. I 9 out of 10 doctors would advise against it.
And the one doctor would be the one that found in the back of the building that's very shady, right?
And he's in the back coughing.
Oh, okay, there you go. No, but that being said, it's a slow start, but for FU Lucas, and it kind of sucked because I honestly were rooting for FU Lucas to.
Me as well.
I liked the way they were going for, like, this is a revenge. I felt for them. Mm-hmm. I loved Caleb's performance, but for me, it's like, you know what, they deserve that revenge. And when I saw the result, I was like, they might not get it. Yeah,
Caleb really impressed me right out of the gate. He was perfect through the first two, stumbled a little bit, but then both him and Cameron really picked it up, scoring 12 points in the first round. That's nothing to sneeze or cough at in your case. And my heart just broke when I saw that 5 for FU Lucas. Because I was like, no, Jim, Lucas, please get your revenge, man. This is not how revenge works.
No, it was not a code served dish served code in that case.
No.
Round 2, taking Wizard World was FU Lucas, and they were confident, maybe a bit too confident.
Lucas was wearing a Hogwarts shirt. I think if he wasn't confident, he would have to go and change. Dress for the job you want.
But in that case, you have a shirt, you represent. But then the way they were playing it, being cocky and taking their times, even the host was like, one answer, guys, come on, you're almost out of time. Were they taking it too much as, they're behind? You don't mess around that much when you're that behind. You go, you concise, you make sure that you're in the zone and you get your points. Was that a smart move in their part?
I think it honestly could have backfired and it actually did on that Fantastic Beasts question. I think because they were having a fun time with all their other questions and then be like, oh, it's Fantastic Beasts. I think if they had just taken their time, slowed down, they knew even before going to multiple choice, it was just going to be one of the 4 characters. And I think they could have whittled it down farther and gone. I think that Ascendant only got that steal because they went to multiple choice. I think when you're that far behind, you really need to focus in on the game, and you can't be trying to do all these theatrics unless you're just throwing in the towel right away. But they seemed like they still wanted to win.
And they really seem they want to win, but again, I just question their strategy of messing about. When you do that, when you're smashing your opponent and you're like 10 points ahead, okay. When you are trailing behind and your objective is to catch up and go beyond your opponent, it wasn't the right time to do so, in my opinion.
And I honestly think also a really big misstep. They're starting to talk about, was this the point in the books where this happened and stuff, and that can get into so confusing because then you're muddying the two waters. And I've seen it happen in other leagues before where someone throws out a book answer and it's like, no, that's wrong because it didn't happen in the movies. And I think they were setting themselves up, and they were very lucky that they were able to perform as well as they were in Harry Potter given all their theatrics.
Yep, I agree. Now, the Ascendants took young adult dystopia. Now, that's a precise category.
There's only like 10. Well, every movie made between 2010 to 2015.
Yeah, pretty much. But if you're expert at, and there's a whole joke with Caleb that he hasn't seen a movie before the year 2000, it kind of fits his persona, right? So I'm glad to see they took it. I was interested to see the questions, and it's pretty much what I expected. It was around those movies. Now, one thing I understand them for doing it, but it kind of backfired on them at the same time, is FU Lucas challenged the whole Glades thing. It got rejected, It kind of bit them back because they lost a challenge that they could have maybe kept for later on.
Yeah, and I think it's that kind of just putting an S on the end is not worth the challenge. Even if you think that's right, odds are it's going to get ruled. It's not going to get ruled in your favor. You're going to lose your challenge. You just look at precedent set in this league and any other. A simple slip up like that is not going to get awarded. And they were wrong in their challenge to begin with. I think they should have held that back for the third round.
And you see, they joked around like, what is the point of a manager, to go in and say things, and when the manager could have said, no, don't challenge that.
Don't challenge that. And also during the round 2, shut up, answer the questions.
Yeah. But again, I was still rooting for them, but what I was seeing what was going on, I was like, no, what are you doing?
You just want the best for them, but they keep hurting themselves.
But again, that's a live and learn situation, right? I just hope they grow and they learn from that experience. They want to play heels, good. Just make sure that you got your stuff down before you go into theatrics of it, Because in all, then round 2 was 21-14. They weren't out of it, but they were definitely not in it either.
They weren't. And I think, again, as we move into round 3, this is a point where a manager could have stepped in to talk to them, because I think they needed to take bigger swings in round 3, because at this point there's only a maximum of 10 points on the board and you're down by 7.
Yeah.
So the moment you start only wagering 1 or 2, just 1 point here, you now have to run perfect. You're assuming you're going to go perfect throughout. And that's just obviously not the case, as we saw a little bit farther down the road.
I completely agree. I wrote that in my notes too, that they should have been more aggressive. Going for the 1-pointer, like if you're very tight, but if you're that low of a score, it's either gonna backfire on you, or if they always put 2-pointers, that could be an advantage. But it's not the way I would have played it, and I really hope they maybe learn how to play the third round a bit better next time.
And to the other hand, I think the Ascendants played this perfectly, where they had that 7-point buffer, and unless they were absolutely confident on a category, they were betting 0 every time. And I think that really, because all they needed was for FU Lucas to miss 3 questions, and that would have been the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
they did it.
And I find it interesting, like, just as a side note, the differences between Fandom and Warzone, the whole betting round versus Choose Your Poison, because the betting round could be played such a different way. There's such a strategy that you have to kind of guess a bit the strengths of the other people and guess a bit what they're going to do. So there's so much that can happen, you know?
I think there's so much trust that you have to put in your teammate in this situation. And it really comes down to chemistry and how well you know each other.
Agreed.
And you could tell the way Caleb and Cameron were talking to each other about, you take this one because I think Wizarding World's going to come up next, and then you can handle this one. That really showed a good team chemistry, and a team that moving forward I would be afraid to come up against.
Yeah, same here. And I'm not going to discount FU Lucas, but I saw the immaturity a bit in their performance, even though I was ruling for them. They have some work to do. And again, this is being a commentator. They will probably crush me. I suck at trivia. I try my best, but I suck at trivia. But that being said, if they want to go in, I see you laugh, Andrew. I see you laugh. If they want, don't me.
It's a joke just for you. I can't even see that.
If they want to progress in the league, they have to fine-tune some things, you know? Now, there's one thing that does not need fine-tuning, is the next match.
Oh, yeah. This is a great match, and I would expect nothing else from the caliber of players that we have on the desk for this next match.
Holy brown stick. That is Necronomicon versus Team 80s. We were talking about Jay before, and I'll re-say it. I don't know if I like or hate him. He's such an interesting character, and not saying as a person, but as a character itself. He's so polarizing. He's so in your face, you know, which is an interesting thing because he can probably rattle a lot of people very easily. And with his combination of Mark Carmeyer, they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I really was impressed. Jay is a guy who I've been aware of for quite some time. Him and I have never crossed paths in any kind of trivia match, but we've been in the same group chats before, and we've actually played in free-for-alls together in the past, and it's interesting. I expected him to do this. What really Mark really impressed me all the way through it, and I think this match would have been decided even sooner if Mark was able to take the reins a little bit more, just because Jay is that big personality. I think there were a lot of times Mark was deferring to Jay, and I think they need to find more of a balance as they go into their championship match.
You see, I disagree. I think that's the kind of their strengths. That's what Mark understands his role. Jay understands his role, and that's how they play. You know, they have a 4-1 record. It's not like they're like 4-5.
That's
so
true.
Whatever they're doing, I think is working for them. And Team 80s, like Jeremy, I've seen him free for all, seen a couple times before. I wasn't too much aware of him before the start of the season, but after everything I've seen, I'm scared of the guy. There's a reason why he writes in the the Schmodown. He knows his stuff, and he is scary to play against. Combined with Sandy Robinson, never seen the guy, never heard of him. Love the guy. He's very low key, but that works very well with Jeremy.
Yeah, I was really impressed by both of these guys. And as we said at the top of this match, really all four of these guys have just a wealth of knowledge that they were pulling things. And I was just like, good for you. Wow, that's great. Now, there were some like crazy misses as we go a little deeper into the match and stuff, like the universal miss of what Infinity Stone shows up in Captain Marvel. I was surprised to see how many people missed that one, but we'll get into that more as we go round by round.
All right. And we're gonna have to go fast round by round. We're really sorry about this, guys, but we're gonna do our best to not miss anything important. Round one, right off the bat, my money personally was on Team 80s. No disrespect to Necro, but from what I saw with Jeremy, I was rooting for him, and it wasn't a runaway. It was very tight. It was bam, 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 straight ping pong type of match. What were your thoughts of round one?
I thought it was really impressive. Again, like all these guys, I'm only really aware of Jay, and again, I've seen Jeremy a little bit, but Mark and Sandy I didn't know much of. And when both teams are pretty much just tit for tat, I'm taking one, you're taking one. There were very few questions where everybody missed, and it's great to see people playing at this kind of level leading into a title match. This is the kind of stuff you want to see to get you excited about that next level. Yeah,
this is a perfect match. I would show someone for them to discover Multiplex. Discover fandom and their world. It would be this match because it's such, you don't know who's gonna get what. Especially one of the last questions that one of the players in Necro got with the whole space stone to tie it up to 12-12 and around one. That's a nail biter of a round.
Oh yeah, and especially with the amount of points on the table, everyone scoring 12 going into round two. You got to be nervous, especially with how this can go and the level of play that your opponents have shown.
Now, round two happens. Bam. Necro spins. They spin first. They get quotes. I would have just went, okay, let's go again. They were thinking about it. They went, they said, this can go deep, etc. But they were thinking about it. So that really shows their level of probably how much they studied certain things, and I got the confirmation from Andrew, so thank you. So they really studied their stuff, and to be able to contemplate, do we take quotes? That proves what they know.
Yeah, just to be able to say maybe we take quotes is a great message to send to other people, because that is especially in fandom, that can be so deep, and so many of these these phrases can belong into different genres. So you really need to know what you're talking about there. And it was impressive that they, even though they spun away, that they were at least considering it.
And then they got Oscars. Fandom Oscars, which, I barely remember any superhero movie or anything fandom winning except for Lord of the Rings Oscars. So it's that was a deep category, but they seem fine with it.
Yeah, what a great poll with and this round was really what showed me how impressive Mark was, because I had been paying attention to Jay up until this point on the team. But Mark, he immediately is like, that's when for the what song is it in Lord of the Rings? It's like, that's in this scene. It's into the West. It's into the West. Yeah. But then there's also that moment where before they go to multiple choice, Mark's like, I'm pretty sure it's adapted screenplay, but he defers to Jay in that moment. And I think if Mark steps up a little bit, they get those 2 points.
Yeah, but no, for sure, especially in a tight match like this, it makes a difference. But I think it's nitpicking their system in a sense that it could have, should have, would have. But yeah, it works for them. So you're gonna have those moments that it might backfire, but most part it works. So I defend their system.
What are we except Monday morning quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not even a Monday morning. I'm a Saturday afternoon quarterback. That being said, 80s get Star Trek. They were over the moon. They were really over the moon. And then the questions came, and they maybe had a little bit less reason to be over the moon. They missed some really easy questions, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, that Scotty question in Star Trek Beyond, they said it was Chekhov, I believe. But just thinking about that movie, Chekhov spending so much time with Kirk, that was really interesting. And you could see Jay and Mark, they knew it immediately as soon as the question was asked, and that's why they were able to get that steal. I think a little bit later in the match, Team 80s is going to talk about how this is a homecoming for them, and they've been away from this league. And I think maybe they weren't taking their time to think about some of the questions, and that's why they didn't do as well in Star Trek. But it was obvious, especially when Star Trek will come again later in the third round. Star Trek is clearly a strength, at least for Sandy, if not for both of them.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole also Terry Perry answer, like, that seemed like, for me, it was iconic because he doesn't show up often. But when Tyler Perry shows up in a Star Trek movie, you remember it, you know?
When Tyler Perry shows up in a movie and he's not in a dress, you remember it.
Yeah, it's like me going into a Britney Spears concert. I'll stand out with my Metallica shirt, you know? That being said, now we're going into round 3. It is 20-18 Necro. That is a tight match again. Even though the blunders, imagine if 80s wouldn't have missed the easy Star Trek questions, we wouldn't be at 2018. They would be in the 80s match to lose, you know. But no, they have to catch up, and they have to do something big. And they tried it. They went with a 2-point question as at one point. They were going big or go home. They're doing the thing that F.U. Lucas should have done. They got that strategy down.
Yeah, and I think we see people who are ready to take that step into the championship match. We see what that looks like, because you can see even when they're down, they're only betting one. They may not be as aggressive, but because it's tight, they can afford to do that. And then with the Star Trek question, getting the Moby Dick as it comes back again, and it's like that. Just knowing that you could be patient, even though Team 80s will obviously go on to lose this match, it's impressive the amount of restraint they had as they were moving through this match.
And in defense of being the devil's advocate, it was not a hard question in the sense, I've seen the Next Generation and Star Trek's almost like 10 times over. Picard and a lot of shows do reference a Moby Dick. It's not the first time, you know. So if you know a bit of Star Trek in general, that it comes up to mind right away. So you do know you have to know your Star Trek, but it wasn't a hard question either, if you know a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think though it's just still a knowing to hold back until you get one of those questions or a strength of yours, I think shows that both of these teams are ready to make that step into championship play.
Perfect. Now let's wrap it up. Final score, 23-22. That's
just incredible, really.
That begs for a rematch down the road, but also makes me it puts Necro. I'm just gonna call it Necro. I'm sorry.
Necronomicon.
Yeah, I'm too French to spell that word. So that Negro is one to watch. They were mad that they weren't recognized as much before, and I get it. I really get it. They deserve a lot of praise for what they did. Especially my mind was like, oh, it's the 80s. The 80s win, and no, that's not what happened. And they have reason to be cocky. They have reason to be proud. They did amazing, and I am rooting for them for next match.
Oh yeah, I really am as well. I think that either I don't have the two teams that are potentially playing them. Obviously, we're going to cover them in an episode down the line. But I think no matter what team comes up to face them for the championship, Necronomicon should be going into that match as the favorite just because these two are powerhouses.
All right. So that being said, we are done. We survived. We made it. All right. So thank you for those who stuck to the end. Thank you very much for sticking to the end and watching this throughout. Don't forget to subscribe to our page. If it's not already done as well, please go on Schmoes of the North Facebook page and Multiplex as well. Subscribe. Make sure you don't miss a thing. This season is going to be amazing. We have proof with the matches we had this week. We are ready for next week. We are ready to see what else is going to happen. So that being said, where can we find you, Dave?
You can find me right here at Leaves Me Alone on Twitter and on Instagram at BabyJamesLees.
Perfect. And you can find me nowhere like usual. I want to be left alone. I'm a hermit.
Someone will come find you, Lou.
No. And last thing, I give back your soul, Dave. You have a soul. It's okay. Now, enjoy it. I'm taking it back next week. All right. Ciao, guys. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for watching.